don't see why. I think I'll have, and Terry may know the answer to this.
Hey, Pauline, let's wrap up. It's 11 o'clock.
That's fine, sorry. Yep, I'm done over.
I love this team. I'm sorry, I'm going to mute.
Well, good morning, Rotary District 7770. Welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Friday, December 4th. My name is Donald Hovis, your CWRAP host. Today's all going to be at about the Veterans Memorial Park in Florence, South Carolina. And speaking to us here in just a few minutes after some announcements will be Colonel Barry Wingard. Barry, we're excited for your presentation. Thank you for being here. We look forward to it here in just a few minutes. But those of you on Zoom, it's Friday, December 4th. Do you know it's National Cookie Day? It's all National Day. So how about in the chat box when you introduce yourself? How about your name, your Rotary Club, your favorite cookie? And if you like crazy socks, we want to know that in the chat. So introducing your CWRAP team. Our public image chair from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia, Mary Gask. Mary will also be presenting the slideshow for today's presentation, so thank you, Mary, for doing that. And our district communications officer is Mr. Terry Moore. Terry, good to see you. Thanks for being here. All right, well, Barry, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Glad to join you.
So you're a colonel, so how about tell us real quick about your military service real quick.
I served in the U.S. Army, the National Guard, and a little bit in the Army Reserve for all of, when you add it all up, it was 37 years. About 23 of that was active duty. Retired initially in January 2002, and I was recalled in December 2004 and spent another 26 months, the bulk of that in Afghanistan. So I retired again in January 2007.
Excellent. Now, before we get to your presentation, I noticed a couple of things in the chat box that I want to call out, and especially one posted by Susan. So Susan says, crazy socks, especially if they're Rotary ones. Well, I happen to have last year's Rotary themed socks on today. So how about that? On National Sock Day, I'm wearing Rotary themed socks. How about that? So thank you for that. Several pair of crazy Rotary socks. Yes, I do have crazy pair of Rotary socks as well. Plenty of those. So excellent. Terry likes his white fudge Oreos, only available this time of year. So I know you're a happy guy, Terry. Mary, would you prepare the screen share at this time, please? Okay, now we will not be able to have this like full screen, but this should be big enough to where you guys are able to see it. So Barry, we're going to go through this presentation and you're just going to ask Mary next slide when you're ready to move, okay?
Okay, I'm on.
Yes, sir. Do you see it?
Good morning again, everyone. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I want to spend the next several minutes talking about something that we're very proud of here in Florence, and it's our Veterans Park. The idea that originated with a former mayor, Frank Willis, who put together a committee in about 2003 and 4, who began looking for a place to put a park. We didn't even know how big it could be because we were just looking for somebody to donate some land. And former congressman and farmer family stepped forward and donated 6.5 acres of land, less than a half mile from the intersection of Interstate 20 and 95. And that kind of ended our search when he did that. It was just a great day. This is the main entrance. Next slide, Mary. You'll see a close-up of the top of that first monument. This is Eagle on top, was done by a sculptor that has a studio here in Florence and also Haifa, Israel. He spends most of his time in Israel now. His name is Alex Palkovich, and I'm going to talk more about him as we go through this. But this monument, and by the way, we call it Florence Veterans Park instead of Memorial because it's to both those who have deceased, who are deceased, and those who are still with us. It's to all veterans who served their country. This monument was awarded an international award as the best public civic memorial category in a public park for the year 2009. Next one, please, Mary. There's another view of it. It's 30 feet tall. It was an effort of Brown Memorials here and Alex Palkovich that I mentioned. Just a little trivia. There was a second eagle made at the request of one of our Florence County citizens, some of you may have heard of, and it sits in her garden, Darla Moore down in Lake City. She saw it and wanted one for her garden. So Alex made a second eagle. Next one, please. This is our wall of honor. Any honorably discharged veteran with PD area connections is eligible once we verify their information that they served where they said and reached the rank they said and so forth. As of last Veterans Day, just a little over a week ago, we have 792 plaques on our wall honoring people locally. The gentleman there is passed away now, but he was one of the original committee members, showing his grandson his name on there, Dave Roberts. Next, please. One end of the park has the flags of all the services, and we are going to add the Space Force. I guess it's going to survive Biden too. So we got to figure out how to get another flagpole up there. But we have ceremonies. This particular picture, 33rd Military Police Company out of Timmonsville, and they had just returned from Afghanistan. We had about 2,000 people show up on a Sunday morning to welcome them home. Next, please. One of the things that we added to the park on the day the day we opened was an oath of enlistment. We thought this was important and something that every person that joins the military adheres to. Next, please. This plaque was in the old library on Irby Street in Florence. It was a World War II thing. There were three. There was one for the Civil War, one for the World War I, and one for World War II. The county museum has the other two and gave us the World War II plaque for us to display. It's a start toward our endeavor to have a World War II monument. By the way, I need to mention, I mentioned Mayor Willis. His vision was that this park would be in honor of veterans 20th century forward. And as you might imagine, at the time we started this, he didn't want to get involved in Confederate flags and monuments to Confederate soldiers. So his foresight was well understood. Next, please. This monument was at the old museum in Florence, county museum, and they donated it to the park the day we opened. This monument also, for the year it was in place, won the same award from the American Institute of Commemorative Art as the best new monument in a public park. Next, please. Rolling Thunder. The people we know riding the motorcycles with normally leather jackets and all kind of patches. They donated this POW MIA monument. It's a two-sided monument, and it's at the kind of what we call the lower entrance. That several years later, they came back and placed directly across from it this chair that is symbolic of the soldier or the person that's not with us anymore. And this gets a lot of attention. We are probably going to move a POW flag that is in the bank of flags I was talking about earlier here, so we don't have to put a new pole up there and it would change the symmetry if we did it that way, because the American flag, of course, is centered and on a bigger pole, a taller pole. Next, please. The Purple Heart Society donated this monument. The Purple Heart Society for Florence and Darlington County is named for J. Elliott Williams. For those of you that may not have heard of him, he is the highest ranking enlisted man in the history of the Navy. He grew up in Darlington, and after he retired from the Navy after 21 years, he lived in Florence for a while. He was later the U.S. Marshal for the state of South Carolina, 2 different terms. I think it was Reagan, and he served 2 different terms because there was an absence. I'm not sure who appointed him the second time, but he was an interim that time. And the Purple Heart, as you know, goes to those who were, but since World War I, it has been to recognize those who were injured, harmed, wounded in combat. Next, please. The Marine Corps Monument was established by the Marine Corps League. The chapter here is the Julian Dusenberry chapter. He earned the Navy Cross for heroism in World War II and was later a member of the South Carolina legislature. Next, please. This is the 9/11 monument, and it's kind of a personal favorite of mine because it's got symbolism I didn't even know was in there until it was already erected. But the stone you see in the center is limestone, weighed 280 pounds. When they were rebuilding the Pentagon, they put a pile of rubble, and I saw a small, about the size of a grapefruit or a softball, piece of that monument, so a piece of the Pentagon on the west, from the west side where the plane crashed. So I got in contact with some people I knew, and they put me in contact with other people. And finally, a guy told me that if I could come get it, he would deliver a piece of the stone to the Florence Veterans Park. So I got up there, and there were all these little stones, and I was kind of kicking them around with my foot and wondering which one I'd get. And I asked him, he said, you can have the biggest one you can lift and put in your SUV. So with the help of some workers, we got this one. Alex Palkovich designed this on the back of an envelope based on what I was telling him over the phone as I was driving back from DC. And for one thing, it shows you how the size of this is to scale. The Pentagon sitting on the Twin Towers. And it is situated such that on the spring solstice, the sun rises directly behind it. And that was Alex's idea of rising from the ashes, or rebirth, or whatever you want to call it. Next, please. This is the bell and off the USS South Carolina, the World War I battleship, dreadnought battleship. This ship patrolled the east coast of the U.S. from Boston to Guantanamo, Cuba, and later performed convoy escort in the North Atlantic. We had a sort of what we might call a sea service ceremonies in 2014. We dedicated this monument to the Navy. And if you go to the next slide, please. And we dedicated this monument to the Coast Guard. This is a anchor off a 2,200-pound anchor off the Coast Guard cutter Comanche, which was for two to perform convoy escort in the North Atlantic. The Comanche was involved in the rescue following the U-boat torpedo of the U.S. troop ship Dorchester in February 1943. It was transporting soldiers to Europe, and about 1,000 did not make it, but the Comanche was able to save about, I think it was 283, it might be on my slide, rescue over 200 soldiers and sailors. Famous later because this was the ship in which the 4 chaplains were aboard. If you ever heard the story about the 4 chaplains who, it was a Jewish rabbi, a Methodist minister, and 2 Catholic priests who locked arms, gave their life jackets and their seats in the lifeboat to soldiers and sailors, and went down with the ship. Next, please. This was kind of an afterthought. The DAR, local chapter of the DAR here in Florence, wanted to do something, and we had some anchors that we had obtained and didn't know what we were going to do with them. And when they came forward, we suggested maybe something for the Merchant Marine. We dedicated this on in 2015 on September the 11th, and we had a contingent of World War II Merchant Marines. Most of them were from Murrells Inlet, Garden City area. Because many of them feel like that they don't get recognized properly as veterans, and it was just a great day for them, and we were happy to do it. These anchors, the anchors off the Coast Guard cutter and the bell were all given to us by Patriots Point. It was stuff that they were not using any longer, and we were just blessed to get it. Technically, the bell still belongs to the Navy. The Navy doesn't give you anything; they loan it to you for 10 years, and if you don't break it, they'll let you keep it 10 more. But anyway, next slide, please. This monument was dedicated in 2015 to the Air Force, donated by Brown Memorials here in Florence. It also won the award as the best new monument in a public park for 2005 or 2015. Was General H.T. Johnson, a native of Aiken. That's him seated, not the guy at the podium. He is one of 3 native-born South Carolinians to become a 4-star general. The others, Westmoreland in the Army and Fig Newton in the Air Force. But Johnson was a student at Clemson when the Air Force Academy began taking students, and he transferred after 1 year at Clemson, and therefore he was in the first class of graduates at the Air Force Academy. He lives in Virginia now, and he's still active in a lot of things. He's quite a gentleman, served a distinguished career, and he was our speaker that day. Next, please. I wanted to mention our trail system in Florence, which the city has, and it ties into the Veterans Park, so that people can use it and see the park at the same time. Hang on a second. Out.
We have another CWRAP.
I'm sorry. Next, please. Okay, this is another sculpture by Alex Palkovich entitled "At Home Safe," and it depicts a family coming home from wherever this particular soldier has been. all the models in the sculpture are local people. He actually used 3 different women for the woman in the picture. One for the body, one for the hair, and another for the face. The soldier is a gentleman who used to be a tight end. 125% life size, so it's bigger than life. The original sculpture had a dog jumping up on the man's leg, and when Alex does things, he does them full size in clay and then brings in people to get opinions about it. And everybody walked in and said, "Oh, look at the cute little dog." Well, he took the dog off because he thought that detracted from what it was all about. But later, a couple of years later, he brought the dog back, and it sits about 20 feet from the statue, and it appears to be the Borkin Spaniel running to the family. Next, please. This is Alex. I'm not going to bore you with all that. I've already talked about him a lot, but very briefly, he's interesting. He grew up in Russia. He's Jewish. When he got out, he served in the Soviet Army, actually. When he got out, he was an electrical engineer by profession, had his own company, made his way to Great Britain. GE bought his company and brought him to the United States to run the MRI factory here in Florence, where I think about 90% of all MRI machines are made. But his secret ambition was to sculpt. So when he retired, he as you can see some of his works today. Next, please. This is an Army monument. It was dedicated in 2016, and I want you to look at the detail. That is all hand etched by an artist here in Florence, who at the time was working for Brown Memorials. And all the scenes are from pictures. There's nothing ad-libbed or made up. And it depicts the Army on one side, World War I, our current war on terror. Next, please. World War I monument was originally on Irby Street at the old library, and it, when they widened the streets and all, it was moved, eventually wound up at the American Legion here in Florence, post number 1, the oldest post in South Carolina. And it, the American Legion donated it to the park. And it created our probably biggest controversy we've ever had. The original plaque on the monument lists those who were killed in World War I from Florence. It's a total of 65 names, and 25 of those are African Americans. But the original plaque has the names listed: officer, soldiers, and colored. So, or officers enlisted and colored. There were some people in the Florence area at the time that did not want to put up a monument that had the word colored on it. And several of us, including some African Americans, were of the opinion that shows what a huge contribution African Americans made in World War I. And if you leave it off or do it another way, you don't get that sense. So there was a compromise made. There was a second plaque made with the names in alphabetical order, and you see that in the middle there. And it sits on a stone adjacent to the park. So I'm not going to say everybody was happy, but that's the way it wound up. So the original plaque is on the monument, and the one with the names in alphabetical order is adjacent to it. Next, please. This is another sculpture by Alex. This one doesn't, when you walk up to it, you don't have to read to know what it's about. He actually donated this one to the park. And you can see on that plaque there, I guess you can read, his family members were saved from from Holocaust by American military, and he wanted to give this to us for that. Behind the statue is what we call the Wall of Tears, and there's water that flows on that constantly. But here's a lady. She has a tri-folded flag in her lap. You know she's lost a loved one. You don't know if it's a husband, a brother, a son, but or a sister, but somebody is. She's been given a flag. There were some people that didn't like the fact that she was barefooted, which kind of baffled me. But anyway, Alex had a solution, and you can't see it in this picture, but off to the behind her from where you're looking is a pair of sandals. She had a pair of sandals and just took them off. Next, please. So our Vietnam monument. This was dedicated in 2017, and it's probably one of the favorites out there. Again, it won several awards for the hand etching. Same artist that did the Army monument the year before did this. We created that soldier's cross, the helmet, the M16, and the bayonet and the boots. And there's a dog tag hanging on it that has the name of somebody that was killed. It's his name tag, but we did change the numbers on it to just in case somebody wanted to do something screwy. This one won a best hand etched monument in North America. Again, we've had there's a picture. It's not on here, but we had a couple of Medal of Honor recipients from Vietnam who came here and paid homage to that. Next slide, please. Korean monument was designed and placed by Blackman Memorials out of Darlington. It's hard to see here, but those bas reliefs are two-sided. One side has scenes, again, from real pictures of Army and Air Force, and the other side is Navy and Marines. And this one was just done a couple of years ago. Next, please. Has drawn more interest than any monument we have put up. We had over 100 organizations and individuals and service clubs like Rotary that donated money to put this monument up. All of our monuments in the park since after the initial opening, there's been no taxpayer dollars. We raised the money to build the monuments, to emplace them and everything. The Woody Williams Medal of Honor Foundation helped us a great deal with this. The front side, as you look at it, is one that you'll see in other parks, with the soldier carved out, saluting, the flags on the bank in front of him. The back side is localized, and we, of course, next, please. This is an up close etching of the back side of the monument, and I wanted to show you those hands. We looked for a picture online that we could use because we wanted something like the Along with Memories monument and the lady holding the flag. We wanted something that people would look at and know exactly what it was, and we couldn't find a picture we really liked. So we recreated one. The lady on the right is Peggy Moore. That's her hands. And the hands on the left are Eddie Collins. Eddie is a Vietnam veteran. Peggy Moore is she's remarried now, but she was a widower. Her husband was the same gentleman whose dog tag is on the Vietnam monument. He was killed in 1971 in Vietnam. He and Eddie were close friends in high school, and they were both in Vietnam at the same time, different units. Eddie was home on leave when Peggy's husband got killed. So the Army sent Eddie to Dover, Delaware to escort the body back. And at the funeral, in 1971, Eddie actually gave the flag to Peggy. So that's real. And we staged this photograph in the National Cemetery, and the tombstone that's prominent there is the same Elliott Williams that we mentioned earlier, Medal of Honor recipient. Next one, please. This one we just put up. Veterans Day, just a little over a week ago. It's hard to see because of the glare, but that is a piece of the bulwark off the battleship, off the USS Arizona, which sunk 79 years ago, December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Again, the Navy cooperated. Down. The only thing we had to do was get it from Pearl Harbor to Florence. And I'll without saying too many names, we worked on this a long time with one of the largest international shippers in the world, and they kept asking for this and that. And after about 6 months, they sent me an email and said they couldn't support it. I called another major shipper, UPS, and within a week they agreed to do it and did ship it to us, brought it directly to the Florence airport where the city picked it up, and we built this case with, hopefully it's unbreakable glass, it's steel, and we kept it rusty. We talked about painting it, restoring it fully to the color it would have been in 1941 and stationed in the Pacific, which is slightly different. Navy had different. But 1,177 sailors and Marines were killed on December 7th with this ship went down. The little thing off to the right of the monument is a letter of authenticity from the Navy, which Brown Memorials was able to duplicate some way. It looks like the real thing, but it's embedded in that, so nobody's going to walk off with it. And it's timely in the sense that Monday is December 7th. We don't have a ceremony planned right now. Next slide, please. This is something I show locally to service organizations, church groups, and whatnot. How to add your loved one to the Wall of Honor. I think all of you would, if you're like I said, if you're close to I-20 and I-95, you're less than a half mile from the park, and it's worth a visit. We have hosted weddings, promotion ceremonies for military people, retirements for military, changes of command. The Boy Scouts one night encamped overnight in the park. That's not something we promote anymore, but if an organization like that wanted to do it, we would probably consider it. Next, please. That's the committee. All of us are veterans. We have one, the Command Sergeant Major Mike Montrose at the bottom is still serving in the National Guard. He lives here, but he works in Columbia. And we're always looking for ideas. If people come forward, want to do a monument to women in the military or military working dogs or things like that, we consider it. And if they have an idea about how to fund it, that kind of moves to the top as if we approve of the concept. The one glaring thing that we're missing is the big World War II monument, which we are again going to try to have ready for 2021 Veterans Day. But that's a quick trip through our park, and I would love to have anybody visit. If you have questions or anything, you can, I guess, shoot them to me now or whatever.
All right. I do see, Barry, that we just got a few more photos. So, Mary, why don't you maybe go through the remaining photos on the slides? Looks like we got maybe 10 slides left. And
Okay.
If you have a question, post it in the chat box, please.
These are just kind of filler slides. That's one of the ceremonies. In fact, that's the Air Force. We had to do the Air Force because the sprinkler system in a thunderstorm came through and made our regular area too wet. Again, crowds, fire departments always come put up this giant flag that somebody in flag maker in Lake City made for us and gave us. Well, they gave it to the city. It's used for other things too. Next. Again, just one of the events we had. That's a portable stage that we bring in. We normally have anywhere from 700 to 800 people come to our Veterans Day ceremony, which is the big event. For 9/11, we had an event that was actually sponsored by the Sheriff's Department and began in the Veterans Park, but that kind of fell apart over here when our sheriff got arrested. So we plan to do a big event next year for 2021, which will be the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Some of our veterans, the soldier in the beret is Command Sergeant Major Mike Montrose, who is the National Guard, and I mentioned it's on our committee. Next. Again, just filler slides of crowds that attend some of these events. That's one of my favorite photos, just a soldier. I did not know him, but I just thought that was, he was wounded in action, I was told, and that was his service dog. And next, again, not much to add to that. Same thing. I will mention that Alex Palkovich, he's been such a blessing to Florence. He has 6 monuments that he did or was part of in our park that we just went through, but he has 7 more downtown. He has one at the medical school, Francis Marion University Medical School downtown. He has a couple at the Florence Library. He has one at the Performing Arts Center. A total of 7 downtown. He has 3 in Lake City, counting the Eagle that Darla Moore got. And he has others around here. He has one at Francis Marion. If you've ever been to Ventnor's Landing down near Johnsonville, that huge statue of Francis Marion on his horse, he did that one. And he also, in this area, he has one at Brook Green Gardens, and he has another one at St. Helena Island down near Beaufort. The most recent one he did here is of a disciple on a podium standing at the Florence Baptist Temple, and it's really big. Really, in fact, I got a picture of it. I don't know if you can see that. But anyway, that's the best I can do. I appreciate your attention.
Well, good job. Just a couple questions here. Any idea how long it takes Alex to create a statue?
Yeah, he usually it's 8 to 10 months, depending on the size. He creates it in a small safe. He creates it in a small clay, and he has some people give him input on it. And once comments are made, he'll change the clay, and then he'll do a small one in bronze. And that may take a couple of months to process. And once he's there, he does the full size in clay. And the ones in our park are 125% life size. And then he'll take, once the clay is looked at, he'll cut it into 3 pieces, bottom to top, 3 pieces, and he ships it to a place in Colorado. And then he goes out to Colorado once they've got it, and they put it together in clay out there, and then that becomes the mold for for the sculpture. Probably average 8 to 9 months.
Wow. Well, it's a great presentation. Great job. So thank you again for being with us this morning.
I enjoyed it, and thank y'all for doing these CWRAPs. I've only made a couple, but I'm gonna start paying attention. And the ones on Monday conflict with my Florence Rotary Club meeting, but I'll hope to see you all again, and thank you.
Well, you lead me into a great comment about upcoming CWRAP. So next week, we always announce them on Friday. The next 3 speakers on Monday, Mary Higginbotham with Good Works, building a tiny home for the homeless. On Wednesday, December 9th, Valerie Morris, who's the Dean of the College of Charleston Art Department, talking about the importance of art in the community. And then 1 week from today, guys, get ready for Barbecue of the South. 1 week from today. Now, 2 weeks from today, I won't have barbecue for you, but we want you to come with your ugly Christmas sweater and your knowledge of Christmas trivia as we end our 2020 CWRAP program on Friday, December 18th with some Christmas trivia, ugly sweater. It's kind of our virtual holiday party for the district right here, brought to you by CWRAP. Now I'm going to look up on the calendar because I believe we may have a upcoming happy hour. I don't see the date on the front page of DACDB, so bear with me just a moment. I didn't want to mess up those speaker names here, so let's see. I believe if I'm correct here, December 17th, Thursday, December 17th from 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock to 6:30 is the district happy hour. So excellent job again. Let's see here. It's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be a kind of cool weekend, maybe. For Barry and anybody out there who says, hey, you know, this conflicts with my Rotary meeting, this conflicts with that, these are all recorded and posted on YouTube, and you can also always go back and watch them there, and they're always streamed live on our Rotary District 7770 Facebook page. So even if you miss it, you can always go back and watch it. And then one final announcement. As we go into the end of the year, the 18th Friday is our last CWRAP of 2020. When we transition into 2021, we will be making some changes to the CWRAP program. You will no longer see CWRAP offered 3 times a week. We haven't decided what day of the week we're going to do it, but we're going to be going to 1 time a week at 11 o'clock starting in January. More details to come, but have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Let's end with the Rotary 4-way test. Barry, you want to lead the 4-way test?
Not really.
All right. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it put better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a wonderful weekend, guys. We'll see you on Monday for the next conversation with Rotary Action People. Take care. That's a wrap.
Thank you.